Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this segment of the After Parties, Me, the Jury. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about all of the fallout in the Karen Reed trial. So, stick with me for this next hour as we discuss everything that is Michael Proctor and his shenanigans. So I want to first take you back to the Karen Reed trial. The Karen Reed trial was one of the first trials that I covered. Um, I covered her very first trial, and then I went on to cover the YSL Rico case, and then Karen Reed's ultimate second trial, to which she was acquitted of all the charges against her. Karen Reed, I'll just remind you, good morning. Good morning, Lorenzo. I'll just remind you that in the Karen Reed trial, she was accused of unaliving her cop boyfriend, and this happened in Canton, Massachusetts, and was investigated by the Massachusetts State Police as well as the Canton PD. And ultimately, the Canton PD recused itself because, um, yes, let me just go ahead and pin this comment. Yes, I am on time. Thank you so much for pointing that out. This is YouTube, so of course I'm on time. um yeah, but she was ultimately acquitted of all the charges against her because quite frankly they just didn't have the evidence to prove that she was guilty of this. But it was a big deal for all of, I do not want to minimize the loss of the victim in this case because he was a Boston police officer and widely respected there, and a life was lost. But they had absolutely no proof that Karen is the one that did it, and many people suspects that she was framed in this. Now, who's to say? I am not saying that it's alleged, but what I'm saying is that following those two trials didn't convince me that she had anything to do with the death of John O'Keefe. Fast forward, the lead investigator in this case was former trooper Michael Proctor. And Michael Proctor has been a very busy boy. He has been the lead investigator in several other cases. And during her trial, it came out that he sent a lot of biased text messages, text threads to other police officers as well as friends and family. Um, Giving out very personal information in this case that he should not have been doing. So the investigation began. Shortly after her trial, there was an investigation into his actions or inactions during this trial, and he was ultimately fired as a Massachusetts state police officer. Well, after Karen's second trial and the verdict in that trial, which was back in July, where she was acquitted of these charges, other potential defendants or upcoming trials, their attorneys wanted information about Michael Proctor as well. In the meantime, Trooper Michael Proctor was appealing his firing. He alleges that, I mean, why am I being fired? I made a mistake, but this is not anything greater than anybody else has done. But this was a very harsh penalty. That was what he was alleging, and he was appealing that. And during this appeal, it later came out that he probably should have been fired, and they started downloading all of his text messages. Not the appeals court, but other defendants were requesting that we have access to all of his text messages. And they got access to those text messages. And recently, when those text messages came out, Michael Proctor then withdrew his appeal. He decided, you know what? Never mind. I don't need this job. Y'all can have it. And he withdrew that appeal, and all of those texts were revealed under seal, though. We, the public, probably will never see these text messages, but what we do know is that there were inappropriate photos, biased remarks, possibly racist remarks, that he released names of SA victims, and so on and so forth. There were hundreds of thousands of text messages dating all the way back to 2013. And they were given over to some of these defendants. Also, under this protective seal, it is said that these defense attorneys can discuss with their clients what was found in these text threads, but that they cannot show them what was found in these text threads. I think it's kind of to protect some of the information, some of the victims, et cetera, et cetera. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Lincoln. And good morning, Tone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. So let's just get right into it. There is approximately 19 cases that are going to be affected by these text messages. There was a federal order to destroy any materials pertaining to these text threads by one month following the Karen Reed trial. And the defendants, the other defendants in other cases that Michael Proctor investigated, they asked for there to be a halt on that destruction of documents. They was like, wait, we want to see what's in this in these text messages before we destroy anything. And Norfolk Superior Court Judge Peter Krupp did order the federal government not to destroy any materials. And so one of these 19 cases that is being affected by these text threads and Michael Proctor's involvement is this gentleman's case, Miles King. Miles King, his case goes all the way back to 2021. In 2021, a gentleman lost his life, and it is alleged that Miles King is the person that did it. And Miles had been incarcerated since 2021. He was being held without bail since then. And his case has been delayed several times. And now these text messages come out. And let me just give you a little backstory on the Miles King case. This was a press release back in 2021. Where it says that a Norfolk County grand jury has indicted Miles King, who was 21 at the time, of Milton, for the July 10th, 2021 unaliving of Marquise Simmons. And a woman is reported to be in a relationship with King, has been indicted as an accessory after the fact of the unaliving. Okay, so this was, again, back in 2021. Fast forward to now, they had to finally release Miles because It had been delayed so many times. So the judge finally did order a very low bond be set, and he was released on bond in June. They believe that this trial probably won't even go, it probably won't go to trial until next year, if we're lucky. But it just really depends on what is found in these text messages. It's my understanding that there was some very racist things said in some of these text messages, and his attorney said it's a very difficult conversation that she needs to have with her client. So, of course, we're not going to know exactly what was said, but use your imagination. You know what kind of racist things people say. Um, so they had a deadline. They had gotten an extension of this destruction of documents until October the 31st. And then we found out around the 25th or 27th, somewhere in there, about the hundreds of thousands of texts and data that was revealed. And like I said, it was some very explicit photos of body parts that didn't belong to anyone that was in the text thread. And that's all very interesting because just this week we found out that Officer Sean Good, or I like to call him Officer Sean No Good, ain't no good at all. He was suspended. Hey Trent, good morning. Officer Sean Good was suspended with pay, pending an investigation, an independent investigation. They brought in independent investigators to really look into his connection to all of this. I'm telling you, all of these people knew each other, grew up together. It's a very small town. They went to high school together. Some of them played football together. Some of them went on to college together. They were close family friends. So these people are very, very intertwined and intermingled together. And so, if where there's smoke, there's fire, you know that old saying. So if former Trooper Proctor was sending all of these texts, he was sending them to somebody. So right now, Sean Good is currently being investigated. But what about these other 19 cases? Some of them he was not the lead investigator on, but he was just involved in the case. But anything he touched is tainted at this point. So while all of this is going on, Karen Reed's attorneys have not let up. They really feel like their client was railroaded. And so they asked for a Brady listing of this lady. This is former officer Kelly Dever. Kelly Dever, in Karen Reed's first trial, was interviewed by the feds, and in that interview, she said that she saw a couple of officers in the Sallyport, which is essentially the garage where they house um, vehicles, like the police officer vehicles, or vehicles that they are investigating. That they call it a Sallyport. She saw two officers in the Sallyport for a very long time. Her words are a wildly long time, with Karen Reed's vehicle. And Karen Reed and her team have always alleged that there was no damage to her vehicle before they towed her vehicle to the Sallyport. And then all of these pieces of tail light started showing up on the scene of the unaliving of Officer John O'Keefe. But they are saying before they got their hands on this SUV, there was no damage to the SUV. So she basically said, yeah, I saw them back there with the cameras off for a long time. Well, in the second trial, they called her to the stand and she said, well, that was a false memory. I don't know about you, but I ain't never heard of false memories. Um, well, some of the videos, allegedly, some of the videos and footage, pictures, still photos went missing during Karen Reed's first trial. We know for sure that they altered some of the video from that Sally Port. Basically, they inverted the video, so everything that was left was right and everything that was right was left, so that you wouldn't see people that was around the tail light. It looked like the tail light was on the tail light was on the opposite side. There is somebody standing over there on this video, but you can't see who it is because they inverted the video. And how they figured this out was that they went to all the trouble to invert the video, but didn't remember to change the numbers, the clock. So the numbers on the clock was inverted. And someone on Karen Reed's defense team figured that out. But even with that, the judge didn't think that they did anything wrong. Anyway, so they did have footage. They just kind of messed it all up so that it would not be able to be used in this case. It was just so many things that was happening in the Karen Reed trial. And because of this, her attorneys have been on their tails. They asked for her to be put on the Brady listing. A Brady listing basically is a list of law enforcement, DAs, prosecutors, anybody that investigates criminals. If you have done anything improper in a previous case, they would put you on this list. And therefore, going forward, if you are called to testify in any future trials, your former testimony can be used against you. It's basically like an alert. This person could be trouble. Okay, so in any of your old testimony, meaning if she is admitting that she has false memories, that can be used against her going forward. Um, well, this is very interesting, Lincoln. I'd like to know what they're trying to hide too. Meanwhile, during her testimony in the second trial, she said that she was called to the office of Commissioner Michael Cox, who is all of their boss. She said she was called to his office and that he told her to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Later, he was interviewed by a news station. And in that interview, he said that he had nothing to do with the Karen Reed trial. He has never met Officer Dever. He doesn't even know why anybody is asking him anything. That's what he said. Oh, but then there's this attorney named Corey. Corey is out there asking for FOIA requests. A FOIA request is Freedom of Information Act. That means that the public should be able to get their hands on any information, legal information. And she's been out there requesting all of these documents. And in her FOIA request, she found out that um, the feds sent Commissioner Cox an email letting them know that they interviewed Dever, letting him know that this is what she said in the interview. And the next day, after the feds contacted him, he called Dever to his office. There is a calendar entry because he is a government official. His calendar entries are also open for Freedom of Information Act discoveries. And there's a calendar entry the very next day that he had a meeting with Dever. And once this was revealed, Karen Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, sent a memo to the mayor saying that I demand that he also be on the Brady listing because he is a liar, 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 liar. Your pants are on fire. He said, I think he should be on the Brady listing. And not only that, I believe that his post should be up for review because he is a blatant liar. And he is supposed to be leading by example. And if the example is to lie, he should not hold this office. Now, I haven't heard anything more about that. We don't know if an investigation is happening or not. But exactly, Lincoln, exposed. Listen, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you are liking this video. Share it out to whomever you think might need to know a little bit of this. Because these things do need to be exposed, even though it's not happening in your town. These are the kinds of things that make our justice system unfair. And so these kind of things need to be exposed, whether it's in your town or not. We need to know what's happening. And that is a really good thing that we are starting to have more cameras in the courtroom so that we are aware of this type of foolery that is happening. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys before I continue on with the foolishness.
Yes, Michael Proctor has been off duty from the state police since shortly after Karen Reed's first trial here last year. And he was fired from the state police earlier this year. But at the time he left the force, he had a hand in dozens of ongoing investigations.
My understanding that former Trooper Proctor is not here.
Former State Trooper Michael Proctor was a no-show at this hearing. For two defendants he investigated in connection to a murder in Milton in 2021. Attorneys for Miles King and Brianna Gardner accused Proctor and prosecutors of dragging their feet when it comes to sharing evidence in their case. King's defense attorney says she subpoenaed Proctor to be here.
Apparently he thinks he's above the law. So he was served in hand. He was told to be here this morning. Instead, his attorney showed up and said he left on vacation on Saturday. The vacation was planned, I understand, a year before.
Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally, who was one of the prosecutors on the Karen Reed case, did testify at the hearing. Last month, Reed was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter in the death of John O'Keefe. Lally testified he had repeatedly asked Proctor for search warrant material in connection to the King and Gardner case, but didn't receive it.
Did you ever have another case other than Mr. King and Ms. Gardner's case where a state trooper didn't give you search warrants that you had been asking for since before indictment?
Objection. Overruled. Not that I recall, no.
Now, this hearing will resume on August 5th, and by then, Proctor's attorney says he will be back from vacation and able to attend. Now, the defendants here and several others are also trying to obtain emails and text messages from Proctor to see if he wrote similar things about them as he wrote about Karen Reed. Live in Dedham, David Beanick, WCVB News Center 5.
So, this thing goes very deep, and it's really unfortunate that this is where we are, that these people have been just reckless. And as I said, it is affecting so many trials. I'm going to name a few of the trials that are being affected by Trooper Michael Proctor and his shenanigans. So, as I already mentioned, he had a hand in the Karen Reed case. He had a hand in the Brian Walsh case. The Brian Walsh case, as I will remind you guys, he is accused of the unaliving and dismemberment of his wife, Anna Walsh. And Proctor was the lead investigator in this case. The defense attorneys are seeking access to his phone data to look for exculpatory evidence or evidence bias. They think that one of the things that Brian Walsh's team believe is that possibly Trooper Proctor accessed information from related to this case in Brian Walsh's Google searches before he got permission to do so. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Um, like Biggie, it was all a dream. Exactly, Jen. So basically, they think, well, let's make sure that he got this information legally, because he was just moving about doing things, and he has not produced any of the information, any of the discovery requests that they asked for. And so this is a real problem in this Brian Walsh case, because a lot of their case hinges on those Google searches. If you remember, we discussed this before, and if you don't remember, then you could go back and check out my video on the Brian Walsh case. Those Google searches were very damning in this case. And not only the Google searches, of course, because they did find him on video disposing of large trash bags where they found some of her belongings in. But some of the Google searches were like things like, where is the trash dumped in this area? When is the trash picked up? Like those kinds of things, how to dispose of a body, those kinds of things. So losing those Google searches will be huge. And of course, now we have the Miles King case. We have Sean Johnson, who also faces an unaliving charge related to a 2024 shooting outside of a Randolph Country Club. Giovanni De Los Santos case. He is also charged with unaliving, and they are looking for a data review in this case. Bianca Chicchio, I probably butchered her name, but she is charged with accessory to unaliving in a case, and is one of 5 initially prioritized for review. Lance Holloman was charged with a homicide on I-93 in 2017, and his attorney is also pushing for access to the records. A prominent Dover doctor's case. He's accused of unaliving his wife, and they are seeking access. So this list goes on and on of potential fallout in this case. It's almost like everything he touched is probably up for review at this point. And if not for the Karen Reed trial, would all of this have been exposed? So I think everybody has to thank Karen Reed and her legal team, because if they had not found those horrible text messages that he had been texting the group about Karen Reed, he was talking about no nudes so far, looking through her phone, and he's texting this to his bosses. This guy, he was also on that text thread. He was Trooper Proctor's supervisor at the time, and he was on the text thread of all of these inappropriate text messages during the investigation of this trial. So it just goes to show you how deep this thing goes. So who else is on those text threads? Like, who else could possibly lose their job? He was later demoted after the second trial and moved to another position. So it is scary to think that all of these things are happening. Like, you're playing with these people's lives. They're playing Russian roulette with people's lives. This is exactly why when I was the police, I tried to stay out of court and trials as much as possible, because they keep track of how many times you are brought in. Oh, really? Well, listen, the deeper you are involved, some people get a thrill and a rush from being involved in such things. They want their name up in lights, they want to be in the limelight. Some people, like you, don't want to be in the limelight. Let me just do my job and get out of here, right? The other thing I want to talk to you guys about, and this is kind of a little more serious. There is another case pending in Boston. This young lady, Sandra Birchmore, was unalived in her home allegedly by a former police officer, a former Boston police officer. She was found hanging in her apartment, and it was first said that it was a self-deletion. Later, the feds took over this case. The feds been involved a lot in Boston police matters, but the feds took over this case and started researching, and it was found that she, in fact, it was not a self-deletion, but an M, okay? And what happened was, in their investigation, they found out that for several years, dating back to when she was a very young girl, I think about 12 or 13, she was involved in this program that they have in Boston where young people can shadow police officers, almost like a little cadet program, and learn about being a cop and possibly become a cop if that's what they so choose. And she had done that for several years. And it is found that in their investigation that they found out that she was essayed by several police officers, groomed, and had inappropriate relationships with several police officers. Trees, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. I'm so glad Lorenzo. Look at Lorenzo. Look at Lorenzo. Please subscribe to the channel and join us. Check out all the content and stay a while. Stay a while. But it is she was about 12 or 13 when she first started with this program. It hasn't been revealed exactly how old she was when the grooming began, but at least 14 or 15. And it went on for years. She had a very intense relationship with this particular officer, and she became pregnant, and she told him that she was pregnant. He was married with children. He wanted her to get rid of it. She didn't want to get rid of it. And her friends and family say that she was very excited about this pregnancy. At this time now, she's in her 20s. Okay, so I don't want y'all to think that she's a teenager. She's now in her 20s. But she's pregnant by this cop who is married, who wants to keep his name clean. And he convinces her to give him a key to her apartment. He makes her think that everything is all good. And there is video evidence of him entering her apartment the night that she was unalived, and video evidence of him exiting that apartment. After they changed the ruling from a self deletion to an unaliving, he was brought in for questioning. They started questioning other police officers. There was a press conference held where they do not think that any of the other cops were involved in a cover up, but just that this cop, because he has been a cop for several years, knew what to do to make it look like a self deletion. And so they didn't dig that deep. They just went by what they saw. But later it was revealed that that was not the case. And he is currently in jail, awaiting trial. But I will tell you that there was a DNA test done on her unborn fetus, and he, in fact, was not the father. So he may have unalived that baby for nothing. He wasn't even the daddy. Anyway, this is all the mess that is happening in Boston. It is like corruption after corruption after corruption. And it's really good that these people are starting to be exposed. Now, if any of you guys want to join me to end this conversation, we have about 20 more minutes together. Please let me know in the chat, and then I will send you an invite and bring you up. Um, but anyway, so this is all that's happening in Boston. It is a shame. It's such a shame because people who are really guilty may end up getting away with crimes because it's so messy. The investigation is so messy, and they don't have clean hands. And when you don't have clean hands, what they do, they just kind of just throw the whole thing away. And that's really unfortunate, because if you're guilty, you should. Jen, is that your way of letting me know that I should send you a little something? Jen is hilarious. Look at Jen and the eyeballs in the chat. Hilarious. Okay, I'm sending Jen an invite quickly. Y'all, my phone has been going off like crazy, and I don't know why. These people need to cut it out. Don't they know I'm real busy right now? Okay, once you get the invitation, come on in, and I'll bring you up on stage, okay? Who's famous? Me? From your mouth to God's ears. Thank you so much. Only time will tell. Only time will tell if that's true or not. But for now, I would say that's probably not so much true. If you're waiting, I don't see you, Jen. Okay, I'm just going to continue until I see her waiting in the wings. But the Miles King case is very interesting, because that man was sitting in prison just awaiting his time for so long, and then only to find out that perhaps it's going to be all thrown out. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm okay. How are
What do
you?
I'm amazing. What do you think about all of this foolishness? It's crazy, right?
I as I was listening to all this, it actually just makes me feel like, I mean, maybe it's cliche, but it is really scary when you consider these are the people you're supposed to allegedly go to feel safe and help you and all the things. It is so scary.
It's so scary. Good morning, Theo. It is really scary, and it's jarring and
Yeah,
unnerving to think that these people hold your life in their hands and they can just be doing anything behind the scenes, which is why I said it doesn't matter that this might not be happening in your town. It could be happening in your town. It could happen to you or someone that you love. It's just that easily. And these are the people we're supposed to trust. Like, I was just telling somebody the other day, well, let me say this. My niece recently was hired by the park police. She is so excited about this job. It's a federal position, and she's really excited. And my sister said, now listen, you can't be pulling people over smiling. You're gonna have to toughen up. And I said, well, why can't she be smiling? Because whatever happened to Officer Friendly? What
right,
happened to that? Like when we were growing up, they was teaching us, oh, that's Officer Friendly. You should be able to go to him and tell him anything. If you feel like you're in danger, go to Officer Friendly. Now it's the last person you would go to because you can't trust them.
right, right. And I mean, for it to be not just a perpetrator, but or an alleged perpetrator, but also the victim. I mean, you don't even know if you're going to, actually truly get justice.
You
I
don't
mean,
know.
true justice. So, yeah, that's
And I
jarring is a
think
great
that's
word.
where we are right now, right? That so many of these cases, 19 cases that he has touched, 14 of them are unaliving cases. 14 of the 19. Now, he wasn't the lead investigator in all of these cases, but he was involved. So, and they have downloaded hundreds of thousands of text messages and data that is under protective seal. To me, when you tell me that you're going to release them under protective seal, meaning the public can't see them, that tells you that this is probably really bad.
Right. Yep.
Um, and so just imagine people like Brian Walsh, who probably most likely allegedly did do this to his wife. He's the last person to see her alive. He lied to the police and told them that she flew to DC. There is no evidence of her ever booking a flight, getting on a flight, seeing her at an airport, none of the things, right? Um, that's what he told her friends and family, and nobody has seen her. They
Mm.
never recovered her body. He was Googling how to dispose of a body, what dumpsters go where, all of these things. They found several trash bags in the apartment complex dumpster where his mother lives, where it was blood soaked towels and um, items, her ID and her purse and certain items um, that leads him directly to this unaliving. Just imagine if it's all thrown out because of former trooper Michael Proctor.
Right. Right. I
And he goes on with his life, and her family never gets justice. Her two young boys, who was left without a mother, never gets justice, all because of one person who could not do his job properly, who was biased, who played games with these people's lives. That's how I see it. Like, it's not your job to go out and make the evidence fit a narrative. It's you are supposed to follow the evidence and let it lead you where it's supposed to lead you.
and what I mean, what is going on in this person's life that this is what he feels is okay to do? in this role, I mean, is it just power? Like what is, does someone have something on him?
Well,
I
it
mean, there's a lot of things I'm thinking about that. So,
well, it leads to something else. It leads to what is going on in that police precinct, because it cannot just be him. As I said, they just this week they placed another officer on leave, and it's highly speculated that it has to do with the release of these text messages. There's been like so much fallout from this Karen Reed trial, and shout out to Karen Reed's defense team, because they were digging and digging and digging,
right.
and they exposed this spider web of all this connection of all these officers, and the cover up, if you will, the alleged cover up, because Officer O'Keefe was found on the lawn of another police officer. There was absolutely no ring camera footage pulled in that neighborhood, on that street, on the day in question. When there is a police officer that lives across the street from the lawn that he was found on, that definitely has ring camera. They asked the officer, why didn't you pull the ring camera footage from his ring camera? He said, because I know him, he my friend, and I know that his ring camera only shows his front porch. What, sir?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's ludicrous, because you know what else ring camera picks up? Sound.
Hmm.
Because even if it only shows his front porch, if somebody is hit by a vehicle, you would hear it. So the fact that they didn't pull that footage leads me to believe that there was no footage to pull, that the accident may have never happened. So it's just so much seemingly corruption in this town. And so maybe everybody got to get fired and they got to start all over.
Start new. Yeah, because I mean, once you start, you're always covering lies, so that's kind of that ends up getting
You
hard
got
to
to
do.
keep covering your own tail. And I feel like that's what's happening. Like, it's like we got to protect, that blue wall of silence that they talk about. It's a real thing. So we got to protect our brother by lying and scheming and conniving, and it's just it just doesn't stop, and that's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for the victims, as well as the defendants, right? Because Officer O'Keefe is probably never going, his family is never going to get justice. There's no one else to try in this case. So he'll never get his due justice. His family will never get it. And the sad part is, I believe, and most people believe, that the O'Keefe family really believes that Karen did this. No matter what they saw during the trial, no matter what evidence her team put on, it they believe these cops.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if their feelings have changed. Maybe they will over time. I don't know, but I mean,
Well, they're suing Karen in a civil trial for money, for damages.
why why would you think you're gonna? Okay.
Well, the reason why they think it is the same reason why when OJ Simpson wasn't convicted and those families sued him in civil case, they won a judgment against him. So,
And so what are the parameters? How are they set so low in a civil case that you would be
yes,
able to do that?
it's much lower. Because in a civil case, it's whether it's more likely than not that this happened. You don't have to prove that it happened. It's just, is it more likely than not that this happened?
And you can't use any judgment that came from the ruling before in that civil case?
You can, and they will. Um, I think the difference here, if I'm being honest, is that in the O.J. Simpson case, there there was some evidence that he could have potentially done this, and
Sure.
that they really couldn't point the finger anywhere else. The reason why he probably, well, I'm sure that we all probably feel the same. The reason why he probably got off um of the criminal case is because they didn't have clean hands. And it's similar to what happened in the Karen Reed trial, except in the Karen Reed trial, they put on a defense to prove that there is no way she could have done this. There was no collision. They proved it was no collision. And so um, they uh, contend that it was a cover up, that someone else did this, and they started covering it up that night. And they are going to name people they think that was involved in this conspiracy and bring them in as basically like co-defendants.
Oh, damn.
They are, so like that was like this big explosion in the hearing that they had. So the O'Keefe family is not just suing Karen Reed, but they're also suing the two bars that she went to that night. Because if I'll remind you guys that she was found not guilty on the unaliving, but guilty of like a DUI. So, and the only reason why she probably was found guilty of that is because she admitted that she had been drinking and probably had drank too much that night. So they're suing her and the bars to say y'all served her too many drinks. Now for the bars, here's the thing about the bars. They were all of the police officers was at the bar drinking that night. All of them.
That's what I
They,
thought. Hmm.
they went to more than one bar. They was bar hopping. And not only that, earlier in the day, they all of the cops had gone to a funeral where they were drinking. They left the drinking event to go to do some more drinking. And they went to two bars because they hadn't had enough to drink. And then they left those two bars and said, hey, come on, guys, come back to my house and let's have some more
Let's drink
drinks.
some more. Hmm. Hmm. That makes the most sense, really.
So, and that is where Officer O'Keefe lost his life, at that third drinking location, which was Officer Brian Albert's home. Okay. They say, the Alberts say, he never came in the house. He never came in the house. He was lying out there in the snow all night until the wee hours of the morning, and we never saw him. People left the house after he allegedly was laying there in the snow. They said they didn't see him. They said we ain't see nobody. We ain't see
Oh,
nobody.
that's right. From the straight line you're supposed to drive when you're drunk in the snow. At what rate of speed?
The man laying in the lawn, and they said we ain't seen no in the lawn. Listen, they showed us a picture of the lawn. The lawn was this big, okay, as you know that. And in the original pictures, it looked like this was like this big yard, but then when someone went out and like actually showed us the lawn, it really wasn't that big. Um, nobody, everybody in the car that pulled off, that drove home that night, nobody saw this big body, because the man was over 6 feet tall, 200 and something pounds. Nobody saw this man land.
There was that much snow, he looked like a big snowdrift or something.
Well, they had a meteorologist come. Hey, Dark
Oh
and
God.
Lovely, good morning. They had a meteorologist come and testify, and he said At the time that they would have been leaving the Alberts home, based on what they said, it would have been a dusting of snow. Basically enough snow to track a cat. That was his analysis. Enough snow to track a cat. Okay? That's all the snow that was out there. So, was it enough to cover a body? No, it wasn't enough to
Yeah,
cover a body.
considering how lightly my kitty walks, I mean, that's just like of dusting. Very sits so little.
A dusting.
Yeah.
Um, but everyone said they did not see him when they left, and it was several people at that house that night. But not only was it several people at the house that night, it was people that came to pick up people, and they saw Karen's car sitting in front of the house with no one in it but her, which means if he wasn't sitting in the car, then he must have been in the house. So this has been one lie
It,
after another lie after another lie that they can't explain away. Um, okay, hold on. Let me see what Tone is saying. You want to know something crazy? Here in Nevada, you cannot sue a bar or club if you were involved. Oh, really? Now that is interesting. Well, so his family is saying that these two bars are responsible because Karen got drunk and could have or possibly did hit and unalive John O'Keefe. And the one of the problems with that is, wait, somebody else might be waiting in the wings. No, okay. The other problem with that theory is that on the video of them drinking at these bars, Karen never went to the bar and purchased a drink. The drinks were being purchased and sent to her.
oh, okay.
So how would they know
To cut her off.
to cut her off? But not only that, one of her associates, because they're not great friends, but it's a small town, so everybody knows everybody, right? One of the ladies, who is married to one of the guys that was at the bar, she wasn't drinking at all. Okay. She was the only person in that bar that was sober that night. And she says, I talked to Karen for the whole hour that we were there. And she said she was coherent. She wasn't slurring. She was like, this lady was not drunk. And she said, and I was only drinking water.
Hmm.
So how are you guys saying that she was so drunk, and they're not saying that she accidentally hit John O'Keefe. They're saying that she was angry with him, which she was. They had been fighting for weeks. Um and he said, I want to go over here, have one final drink, say goodbye, and then we're going to head out. And she didn't want to go. So she dropped him off and went home. They're saying that when he got out of the car, she was so angry that she drove off and then reversed, doing 27 miles per hour in the snow, drunk, and hit this man. Now, I don't know about y'all, but doing reverse at 5 miles per hour can be difficult.
I was
So,
just gonna say
when you're
I'll
so
reenact that minus the person behind me, of course.
right. But okay, so someone tried to. There is a gentleman who goes by the name of Turtle Boy who lives in that town and had been investigating. She was okay. Okay, here you go. She was hot. He tried to reenact that. He went to the scene. He drove the distance. He measured out the distance that they said she drove, which was something crazy like 40 feet, 50 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he backed up in reverse 27. He tried to do 27 miles per hour. He spun out, went up almost on the curb, almost hit his friend that was recording the thing. It was not like an easy thing. And it was skid marks in the street when he did it.
Well, I was going to say, you'd think that that would raise quite the commotion, right?
You would think so. And you know what else you think it would do? It would be captured by the ring camera that they
Oh,
didn't download.
that's right. Oh my gosh.
So it's just all of that to say that something is suspicious about this case, and because of it, it has garnered a lot of attention. And unfortunately, for former trooper Michael Proctor, all eyes are on him because he was the lead investigator in this case. And so, because he touched it, it's all bad.
Ugh.
Um, so that is the update on the fallout of the Karen Reed trial. Shout out to Alan Jackson and his team for staying on their necks up there. They said this is not over. We not letting this go because what y'all did to this woman, because she had to sell her home. Her parents had to help her to pay for all of this. And she really don't have no money right now. She hasn't worked, wasn't able to get a job. She's very sickly. She has some very serious illnesses that have been exacerbated by all of this. She seems to have lost a lot of weight during this time. It's just been a lot. And her parents are elderly. It's just been a lot on this family. And now she's being sued civilly. And I mean, it's possible that her insurance company would be on the hook and not her, but who's to say how much the insurance? We don't know how much insurance she has.
Right.
I don't even know. Have they dropped her? Who knows?
Whoops.
So
Watch out.
this ongoing saga is a lot. It's a lot for her and her family, and so for them to still be suing her, they said, we're not going to go down without a fight. So the saga continues. So thank you guys so much for joining me this morning for this live. If you haven't done so already, please remember to go out and like the live. You can comment. These comments are not seen once this video is uploaded. So if you want to go back and add a comment, I'd be forever grateful. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Y'all have an amazing Saturday. Remember, the world has never met another you. Go out and be great in it. Thank you so much for joining me today and spending this 1 hour with me. I love you guys. I'll be back next Saturday with more trial updates, news, and more. Bye-bye.
Bye.